There we go. Okay, one more thing. Hold tight, everyone. Got an echo, and it's gone. Hey, everyone, welcome to the main event. My name is Joe Tillman, and this is, what is today? Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. And if you don't know who I am, what I'm doing behind this microphone, I've been in the hair transplant industry for 20 years, and I've been working, well, the first half of that 20 years, a little bit longer than that, working with a very, very good clinic where I learned a lot of details at a very high level about how hair transplant surgery is performed, how it should be performed, and how it's not being performed in a lot of places. Meaning, I look at things online. I look at results of clinics online. I look at postings by patients that have gone to different clinics, and I'm trying to find the words for it. I'm very disappointed, is putting it mildly. Kind of disgusted by some of the work I see. And just sometimes I'm actually put into a bad mood because of it. And I've talked about this many times before. Yesterday's show was heavily focused on this subject, but you're going to be hearing about this probably every episode in varying degrees of length. A couple minutes, maybe the whole show will be dedicated to it. Who knows? But yeah, it's that way because I'm passionate about it. I'm very passionate about this industry, very passionate about the things that are being done wrong. I'm very passionate about the details that make hair restoration surgery super good or incredibly bad. And it's those details that matter. And with that said, we're going to be talking today about a YouTuber named Mike Majlack. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because I don't watch the guy. I've heard of him. Actually, I've seen him because someone sent me some questions asking about him several months ago. Apparently, when he first got a hair transplant, when he'd gone to Turkey to have his hair transplant. And I, okay, what am I supposed to say? I can't see anything about the surgery itself. It looked like full honesty here, it looked not terrible. The extraction pattern looked like it was fairly large. He had 4,500 grafts, give or take. And I do remember thinking that the hairline wasn't in abysmal shape. It wasn't one of these, Karate Kid hairlines, seagull hairlines, where you got these really wide curved temples. And here we are 8 months later. And yeah, Neil in the chat room saying he is with Logan Paul. He's a sidekick that is benefiting from his affiliation. He's got a couple million subscribers on YouTube, which is, that's just amazing. And I think almost 2 million on Instagram. So he's a popular guy. A side note about this guy is you watch him with the Paul people, the Paul brothers and that crew. He acts like he's in his early 20s, but he's 38 years old. He's a grown-ass man. And props to him for the lifestyle he's living, but I kept looking at him and I thought he looks older than he is acting. And sure enough, it came up somewhere that he's 38. But yeah, milk drinker. I don't like these people. I don't even watch them enough to make that determination if I like them or not, because I don't have the time to. The interesting things, I look at car videos, like particularly old. I like old Porsches. I like old Nissan or Datsun Z cars. I used to have one, and I like engine swap videos. Here's a little bit of a window into my world. I like those kinds of videos. I like videos about AI. I like videos about, I like long form discussion videos where people that are much more intelligent than I am are in a very long, 1, 2, 3 hour Q&A session with someone else that's asking some good questions. So those are nice to listen to if I'm not even watching them. But that's I digress. That's not related to today's video. But it is a call-in show. But try not to give me any calls yet, because we're going to go through this video, and I'm going to stop it at different points. And I haven't thought this part through, but maybe if there's a part where I'm pausing the video to make a comment, I'll invite you guys to call, and you can give your opinions on what I'm talking about. So let me see if I can just pod this up real quick. See, the video is here. All right, so I'm popping that over. And all right, yeah, so this is Mike Majlack, and I'm going to fast forward through the first part of this. He's talking about a turkey relief fund because of the earthquakes over there, which is fine. But let's get busy.
Starting off a little differently than most you're used to seeing on this channel. The video itself is going to be lighthearted, but the story I want to talk to you guys about before the video starts is not as lighthearted. Earlier this week, Turkey and Syria were hit by a massive earthquake, as you guys know. Thousands what happened over there. I've seen a bunch of other creators working on programs to donate. If you have something you eating on Thanksgiving, and I went out there and I had a procedure done. Now, this surgery, as you guys know who are watching this, can cost upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 in the United States of America. But in Turkey at Smile Hair Clinic, their rate is between $2,000 and $2,500 US. I have gotten thousands of messages. Yo, Mike, do an update. What's the update? How's it look? How's it doing? How's it feeling? Come on over here, Katie. I saw you sneaking around in the background. I may be shooting a video, but I'm keenly aware of what's happening. Have you ever...
Do me a favor. Confirm you guys can hear this okay. There's no echo, because I can't hear it on my end. I'm hearing it in a different... there's a delay for you guys. It's 10-second delay. I can't tell if you guys are hearing it properly. Please let me know in the chat room.
A balding man before.
Yes.
Not the greatest thing, is it?
No.
Beyond just my own personal story, I think this is like an impactful way to kind of show you guys something.
Okay, first off, that was a kind of a BS type of situation that he just brought in that young lady for, saying, "Have you ever met a bald guy and it's not a great situation, is it?" And she's like, "Nah." That's kind of shitty. For I don't know. I thought that was short-sighted. I understand he's trying to get, he does a thing in here later on where it's like this supposed fake commercial that he's putting together. It's kind of weird. I didn't find it to be humorous, not because it's in bad taste. It's just kind of stupid. But anyway, let's go back to it.
Testimony from Smile Hair Clinic.
When I met Mike 8 months ago, he was always trying to ask me out, and I always said no.
I had to used to sit with my back against the wall at restaurants so girls wouldn't sneak behind me and try to use my head as a mirror to check their makeup. I always had a shower.
That was just no, not good. Not
The
good.
shower cap, because when my hair got wet, it got even worse. And worse than anything.
No, that actually makes sense. Now, he probably didn't wear a shower cap. But yeah, when your hair is thinning and you're taking a shower, yeah, it's a process to get it back into a position where you feel good enough about it to go out in public and not have to deal with the shortcomings. So even though he's mocking the situation, there is some truth to that.
I could never drive with my windows down. But then one day I discovered Smile Hair Clinic in Turkey and their cutting edge scientific process to restoring your hair and your dignity fast. And
Okay, now this part, if you're a subscriber to this channel, and by the way, if you're not, you should be, and ring the bell for all notifications. See what I did there? Cutting edge surgical techniques. What in the hell are they doing that's supposed to be cutting edge surgical, like leading edge or whatever the actual words that he used? No, it's just FUE. Please, please, please do not go down that road of saying that anything that they do is different than what anyone else does, much less being superior or advanced or cutting edge. If you've been, yeah, that's just wrong. No.
at a fraction of the cost.
At the time, he was bald, fat, and stupid. But 8 months later, he's still fat and stupid. But at least he's not bald.
Now that was kind of funny.
Weekend in Turkey, a few hours in the doctor's office, and just 2,000 euros to get it done. My life has changed forever. And now look at me. I'm happy, I'm hairy, and best of all, I can drive around the neighborhood with my hot girlfriend and all the windows open.
Oh my god, he's so stupid, I can't stand it. But at least I have his Amex card, and every time he posts me, I get a couple hundred followers.
Hey, what are you guys talking about?
Nothing, just how much I love you.
Oh, I love you too. So thank you so much to Smile Hair Clinic for the new hair, the new hot girlfriend, and the new lease on life. Guys, if you want to learn more about Smile Hair Clinic, all you have to do is click the link that's in my bio right now. It'll bring you to a WhatsApp. You can chat with them, and you'll save 100 euros off your procedure. Click the link. It might just be the best thing you ever do. Hey.
Now, okay, now we're getting into something interesting. And if you've watched any of my previous reaction videos where I am talking about these YouTubers that are actually encouraging you to contact the clinic they went to, except Greg Doucette, he doesn't encourage it, but he's, I don't care about my hair, I don't care. He keeps saying he doesn't care. You like my Greg Doucette imitation, by the way? There is definitely a financial arrangement going on here, because he says, click the link that will take you straight to them, and you'll get $100 off of your surgery. I can't even begin to break down how ridiculous that sounds to me. Click the link and get $100 off of your hair transplant. You're not buying Ginsu knives off of late night television, people. And I don't know. That is disgusting to me. It's absolutely disgusting to me. It's already cheap as shit. Like $2,500 for a hair transplant. And if you're clicking on that link to get an additional $100 off, you really shouldn't be having a hair transplant. Like, you should be using your money for something else. Like, maybe put it into a savings account, or, maybe put it towards school, or I don't know. It just, there's so many thoughts I have about that. It's already cheap as dirt. And if you're interested in saving $100 off of a dirt cheap surgery, where the ticket alone just to get to the clinic is going to be at least half of that cost. I don't know. That just reeks of desperation to me, my friends. Yeah. Okay. Let's get back into it.
Everybody, I bet you weren't expecting to see us here on the set of the beautiful Jeff FM, but I wanted to gather 3 people who know everything there is to know about hair, including my friend Jeff. Before we do anything today, guys, I want to show you some pictures of what my hair looked like. Here's some photos of the front of my hair. You can see that I was starting to thin out a little bit on the corners of my hairline. Now, quickly, shocking, never before seen video of the back of my head. It looks something like a marble table.
Sorry, let's see, take this off here. Now you can see it.
Or a mirror that you could see your reflection when getting ready for the prom or some other formal event.
You could also use the barbershop episode that we did the first time I cut your hair.
So a lot of people don't know this, but when me and Jeff shot the first episode of the barbershop, Jeff was not allowed to show the back of my head.
And honestly, now that I see it, I see what you were talking about.
Me and David, we went to Istanbul, Turkey on this medical tourist adventure. The package that we got included transports from the airport to the hotel, then
just like every other package that every clinic in Turkey offers. Every single one. It's always included.
from the hotel to the clinic, back to the hotel, and back to the airport, everything included. And they told me that I was going to need to have about 4,500 or 4,700 grafts individually removed from the back of my head.
What's a graft?
So basically, the individual hair follicles are removed one by one from the back of your hair from this donor area, and then the surgeon comes in and makes 4,700 micro incisions across the top, back, and
okay, he says 4,700, so I don't know if it's 4,700 or 4,500. But it's almost 5,000.
and parts of your head that you want to implant those hairs to.
Wow, that's a lot of holes.
And the surgeon and the techs go in and they actually push each one of those hair follicles into your head. And
4,500 times?
4,500 times.
How long does that take?
It takes between like 6 to 8 hours.
He's not wrong.
But how long do you have the hair for?
Ever.
The rest of your
For
life?
the rest of your life.
That's debate, like usually, but that's not the case across the board. And if you're a subscriber or follower of this channel, you know that that's the case.
If you're in and out of Turkey in like 2 days, you're back. You're on your way back to America, and for the time thereafter, you're going to be very careful with it. You're going to be washing your hair with a specific compound each morning, and you're not going to be able to wear a hat for the first.
I think for the first
month I think it
to
was.
be sure. Yeah,
but then thereafter.
That's excessive. Most places will say don't wear a hat for a week. Some places will give you a hat to wear. And this isn't to discredit anything that the clinic is telling them. It's just that does seem extreme. 1 month of not wearing a hat because, grafts are anchored in pretty solid by day 7, even day 6, sometimes day 9, but it depends on physiology. But a month? No, that's not necessary.
When your hair is still kind of short, you can start to wear a hat. Here's the front of my head, and look at those.
Okay, so let me get rid of my picture-in-picture here. Now this is the important thing here.
Strands. Look at those beautiful implanted, transplanted strands of hair. These.
All right, now I want to I want to talk about what we just saw. Now, I meant to bring in the thumbnail that they used for the video, where you can see the placement or the outline of where they're placing the grafts. His head was shaved. They had the framework drawn on the diagram that you always see in blue marker. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Let me pull this up here. The result that we're seeing here is not terrible. And when I was doing research on this video today, I only started putting this together today after someone asked me about it. Matt Dominance did a reaction video to this several weeks back. And he was looking at this exact photo. And he was noting that it was the doctor that basically started the clinic, Emmett Erdogan, I think. I know I got the last name right. Not sure if I got the first name right. But Dr. Erdogan, no, not that Dr. Erdogan, a different Dr. Erdogan. And apparently he's been performing hair transplant surgery for a very long time. I don't know the truth to that. I'm just repeating what he said. But he said it shows because you can see all the singles in the hairline. Now, I don't want to pick on Matt. This isn't about picking on Matt. But wrong. I can't explode this video, this image. But if you look right here, you can see all these little dots. And after the video, or after this live stream, I'm going to upload these two images to my website, hairtransplantmentor.com, and I'll put the link down in the description so you guys can look for yourself. You can download the image and you can blow it up, if you got Photoshop or GIMP, some sort of, a free image tool, or any image tool that you like to use for photos, you can blow it up and you can look for yourself. And you can see all the doubles that are in the hairline. Now, it doesn't look terrible because the angles do seem okay. The direction is hard to say because he's holding the hair like this, so you can't tell if the direction is proper. But one thing that Matt also said that I think is misleading, and this is just because he doesn't know or he's not realizing, is that when you do this to your hair, even if your hair is really thin, now it looks really thick. This makes hair look a lot thicker than it really is in the hairline. So this image is not indicative or representative, I should say, of let me scratch that. It's not what Matt Dominance is saying it is. It's not full of singles. There are singles in the front, but there are far too many doubles, and we don't know if it's dense. It doesn't look too thin in the other shots that we see him, but it's also hard to tell because he's always had a forward hairstyle, and he still uses the same hairstyle. It covers the hairline. But what I will say is, to Mike's benefit, is that the hairline is not too low, and you don't have these corners that are like the seagull temples. It looks like, and I'm just speculating, but it makes sense, because Mike is who he is, they played it safe. They played it conservative. They didn't touch his temples. Or should I say his temple points. They didn't touch the transition area, because the work stops right about here. If you can see where my mouse is, it stops right about here. They don't even begin to try to make that transition into the lower temple region, into the temple points. This is a temple point. This is the temple, and they just brought it into the transition point and stopped. They did not cross that barrier because it's tricky. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you'll get it wrong. So I suspect that they didn't want to risk it, and they brought out the big guns, the guy that's most experienced in the clinic, to do this surgery, and it turned out okay. Too many doubles in the hairline, but his hair is kind of fine. It doesn't look like it at first glance, but it actually is fairly fine. But you can see in these yellow dots, those are just some of the doubles I saw in a low resolution. Like, it's not the highest resolution. I took a screenshot from their thumbnail. No, actually not from the thumbnail. Took a screenshot from the actual video. So let's just move on. See, where'd it go? Here we go.
These photos were not taken from the Chinese balloon. They were not taken from the Kepler telescope. These are iPhone photos. Drum roll. Now what you guys are looking at, here it comes right now, is the back of my head.
Wow.
This is what the...
And that's not the best looking donor area. It's a funny angle. Let me pull it up again. It's a funny angle, and the lower area. Shit, you can't see it. The lower area here, if you can see my mouse cursor, it looks pretty thin. But I'm willing to, like, it's also very short, much shorter than it is in the before image. Obviously, the result here is actually pretty good. The whorl pattern is established. The doctor followed the existing direction and flow of the whorl pattern, so it's not terrible. Did a good job. But I'm wondering about the donor area, about the I want to say depletion, but the reduction of density in the extraction zones. So let's keep going.
Back of my head now looks like, now we are only 8 months out from the hair transplant surgery, meaning we're only about halfway through the regrowth stage, because it can take about 12 to 14 months.
How has this changed your life?
I don't have to worry about, oh no, what if someone stands over me on a ladder and looks down at my stupid fucking shiny head?
I definitely think it helped your confidence a lot. You've been going on a lot more dates. You haven't been wearing hats.
Here, show a picture here of all the different times you saw me in that LA hat, that smelly Los Angeles hat. Guys, up until 8 months ago, I wore that hat every single day of my life. That is what this hair transplant surgery has done for me. It has eliminated the have-tos and gave me the want-tos. And now I do what I want as opposed to what I have to do.
It's like a boob job for women. You know,
it's a boob job for men.
That's the most common one for them. That, I mean, probably has more risks, right? But
you're right.
You know,
yeah, and you're German. It makes me feel better about everything, dude. And I go to sleep at night feeling like I have hair, which I do.
I didn't catch what he was talking about, the boob job, which he was saying is more dangerous, but here's my problem with this section of the video, including this other guy that's actually behind the microphone behind the desk. This sounds like a complete commercial, and it gets worse later on. So keep watching.
That is a good analogy.
It's really nice to be able to fully eliminate for $2,000 to $2,500 an entire problem from your life.
And you want to make sure you go to the right place, because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of different countries that are doing this, and there's actually places that will take your hair, sell it on the black market, and they'll put dog hair into your head.
Okay, so thank you.
Obviously, that's horseshit. Just saying.
Jeff, all your feedback's been very helpful today. I appreciate you.
Hair from squirrels. Invest in yourself. What are you going to spend money on shoes that you get dirty? This hair's with you for life. And I wouldn't lie on here for Mike's video. I don't care about it. Go to Smile Hair Club Direct Turkey.
Nice. That was close. Have you ever heard about anybody without hair ever being successful?
Well, let me think. The richest man in the world has hair, Elon Musk.
But did you know that it's actually from a hair transplant?
You know, I could see that. He's got all that money. Why?
See, that's. I mean, I don't know if they're just playing around, but you know, hello. I don't. Yeah, like he and Elon trade places of the richest men in the world sometimes. So that's horseshit. And yeah, I can just imagine the people watching this going, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I hope that's not the case.
Why not invest in something so important? It's your face, it's your head.
Did you know that there's been stories from the past where people without hair were mutilated and tortured and stoned to death because of how ugly they are with no hair?
I think they should still do that.
Yeah, that's obviously
modern times. I think it'd be nice to do that.
If you guys don't want to die as a result of your hairlessness, take care of that problem. The last thing your family wants to see is you sliced open with a guillotine, you know, or beheaded.
Okay, that's ridiculous. So we'll just move on.
Bro, how long is
click the link to talk to Smile Hair Clinic?
I am here
and save $100 again with the pushing towards clicking the link. So, question is, what is he getting for every click on the link? What is he getting on the back end? How much was he paid to even go to Turkey? Because it's like $2,000 for this guy is nothing. He's worth at least a few million bucks. Yeah, it's just kind of silly. But this part, we got another section here. I don't know if I'll go to the end of the video, but this section is also interesting. So let's jump into it.
Here with Life of Libs. I don't know why I called her by her Instagram name.
You can call me my Instagram name.
But her name's Liberty. She is a triple OG Instagrammer, model. She does a lot of fashion. And we actually just went to Costa Mesa to shoot for the Night Shift clothing, which is dropping next week. All the burger locations on the back of the shirt.
Okay, so it was hard to see the back of his scalp there. Let's try to pause it again. Hang on.
The Night Shift clothing, which is dropping next week. All the burger locations on the back of the shirt.
It's really difficult to see the back of his scalp. You notice that the camera dropped right as he was turning around. So what I did was I found this. I took a screenshot, and I can see the demarcation of the extractions. So it's kind of difficult to see on this image because it is low resolution. It was 1080p on my computer, but then because of all the motion, it's not quite crisp. But if you're having trouble seeing that, then this is what I'm talking about. Now, as I take away this yellow outline, look at the area again, and you can see the demarcation from inside the yellow mark to in front of it above his ears. You can see that there's a drop-off in density. You got to look at it closely. But this is the best shot I have of his donor area out in the wild, which I look at all the area in front that could have been utilized, to further expand that donor area for more hair possibly without creating so much of a thinning look. That's one thing I don't like about FUE that's not done perfectly, is you can see the demarcation between the extraction zone and the untouched virgin scalp. And that's what's going on here. I see it. I don't know if you guys can see it. That's why I got this outline going back and forth so you can maybe get an idea of what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's about that. Let's see if we can pop off here. So that's my opinion on this result by Smile Hair Clinic. It's not terrible. It's not great. Why can't I get it on my computer? But what I think is that they made sure to have the best work that they could do in the most safe approach that they could make. That is not an aggressively low hairline. The hairline placement, like the height of it, is ideal for him. It's actually very good. And they didn't venture into the temples, crossing that transition zone down into the temple points. That was smart on their end, because if it didn't turn out well, it would stand out to the world. And I can't imagine, I don't know how many surgeries they do a day. Matt Dominance was saying that they do, I think, 10 or 12 a day. I don't know. But I do know that you don't want to wind up looking like this guy that also went there. He's an influencer. Iwan Stefan, he's in the UK. You can see this hairline. It is just, it's kind of like ant legs on growth hormone. But yeah, so guys, give me a call. What do you think of this result? What do you think of Mike Majlack's hair transplant result at 8 months with 4,500 grafts? The number is 833-563-4247. This isn't just a live stream reaction video. It's a live stream reaction, let's talk about it video. So give me a call. Lines are open. Love to hear from you. I saw some comments going on in the chat room while we're waiting for calls. See. Yeah, Gypsy Sand says, yeah, you can see the demarcation even at low resolution. And Moji, he's just shaved it down, which makes it less visible. Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder about how would it look at the length it was before surgery. I'd like to know. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him with his hair grown out a bit. That would be interesting. FSK says, for turkey standards, it's good, but that's saying something. Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. It's better than average in Turkey. It's not as good as the better clinics in Turkey, but it is better than average. Average is pretty low in Turkey, simply because right now it was estimated by Dr. Uzlan Bishir from Istanbul that there's about 1,000 clinics in Istanbul alone. So the average, the bar is really low with what's out there. Yeah, some other examples of successful bald people: Joe Rogan, Kevin O'Leary, Dwayne Johnson, Bruce Willis. That was such a stupid thing for them to say. But I don't know what kind of audience they have. I mean, maybe their audience doesn't think more than 5 feet in front of them to recognize these things. I don't know. Give me a call, guys. 833-563-4247. I guess I should put the number up on the screen. There it is, right on. Yeah, down here, 833-563-4247. Lines are open. Let's talk about Mike Majlack's 45, or is it 4,700? We don't know. Graft result at 8 months. Matt Dominance. I'm sorry that he didn't think that there were any doubles in there, that he saw only singles, but what do you do? Okay. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Hello, Morty from Brooklyn. How are you, my friend?
Oh, look at me, 2 days in a row.
I know.
I'm okay, man.
That's good.
I'm okay. Yeah, I was just watching your video on this influencer who had his hair transplant. It's telling that he hasn't. Well, I mean, you tell me because I haven't really followed this that tightly. He hasn't really done a follow up, has he?
This was his follow up. He did.
Really?
Well, he did his. This was released like 2 months ago, I think, and that was his eight month, and that was his big reveal. He did an actual, I'm going to Turkey type of video, where
that I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is the follow up. I don't know if he'll do another. Like, why would I know? But not as if I would know. But I who knows if he'll do another one. Depends on if the clinic says, hey, here's another, paycheck, make another video. Who knows?
Gotcha.
But
for the most part, you're telling me that he really didn't show the donor. That's where you're having to dig around to see this kind of other picture. He didn't really show off his donor, huh?
Yeah, I didn't. I watched the video once all the way through, and I didn't see that. There's the thumbnail that they have on the video where you do see the donor, but it's just like you saw in the video. It's from an elevated view. You're looking down, and that's the worst angle to look at the donor area. And throughout the video, he doesn't turn around except for that one shot where he's outside eating a cheeseburger, and the camera dips down conveniently, where you can't really see it. It's like less than 1 second where you might see it, but he's just moving too fast. And I actually tried to stop it and screenshot it, and it's just a blur, so it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So
yeah, I hear you.
And overall, like I said before, I mean, it's not terrible as far as the work goes. Or the placement and or I can't say the placement, but the hairline shape. I mean, obviously the growth is there. At 8 months, it'll probably thicken up more. But I'm kind of surprised at Matt Dominance saying, "Look at all the singles; it looks natural." I don't know, but like I said, at the end of the video, I'll put links down, and you guys can, click on the link, download the image, do your own analysis, and Morty, you can do the same thing, and call back tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think.
For sure.
Yeah.
It kind of opens up an interesting question because I mean, a lot of these clinics are investing pretty heavily in gaining the favor of influencers, in addition to putting a lot of presence on social media, and I mean, the doctors that you work with, though, I mean, they're also doing a lot. I mean, you talk about, Dr. Bonsall and Dr. Bonsall, and they're going full bore in social media as well. So it obviously it confuses the matter for the novice, for the people who are just starting in on that hair journey. Because it's just you're just drinking from the fire hose in terms of the amount of media and the strength of influencers and stuff like that. So, it's a weird situation because they're like, oh, we're gonna get with these influencers because they have a lot of followers and that will get us more eyeballs. And there's some logic to that.
There's tons of logic to that. You can't blame anyone. Yeah. For looking for an opportunity to get the word out about what they do, the good clinics and bad clinics. It doesn't you can't blame them. Like I fault no one for wanting to engage and work with an influencer to get the word out. Not in the least.
Yeah, I get that. So this is actually an interesting point out. I mean, I've been watching your show for a little while now, and you've brought on doctors and all this type of stuff. One of the things that Spencer always pushes hard, and maybe I'm not noticing this as much because I haven't really been watching Spencer's show. Fridays have been a little bit problematic for me. It has to do with the whole don't get a hair transplant. And I think it's important that the people who are listening, remember that even the best possible doctor and the best possible candidate can still get screwed up. You know, just to kind of reiterate that point for those who are listening, I was a marginal candidate. I did my homework, and at the end of the day, I still consider myself dodging a bullet, and it's one of the reasons why yesterday when I called in to talk about hair greed, one of the first thing that pops into my head, it's like every time you go back to the well, it's like you're playing Russian roulette. The only difference, I guess, is you could say is the number of bullets you have in the barrel. If you're dealing with a good doctor, and a doctor you've got a rapport with, somebody who basically knows your head because he worked on it before, and knows what a third surgery might look like. Doctor has already told me that he wants to do a little tweaking. The risk is reduced, but it's not totally eliminated.
100%.
That's one of the things
That's what I was reiterating yesterday as well, that it improves your chances, but doesn't reduce or eliminate the risk. And what you said about the Russian roulette is something I've mentioned a few times, where you have a great result the first time. That's fantastic. Patient X, whoever it may be. Every time you go back to the well, you can slip and fall in. You just don't know, because it is the law of averages. Every time you go back, can be. And I'm not talking about you specifically, but anytime a patient goes back,
it applies to me also. It's something
it increases the possibility of having a negative outcome. It doesn't mean a terrible outcome. It doesn't mean a complete failure as an outcome. It just means, well, maybe it didn't, come in as much as we had hoped. It can still be an improvement. It can still be a really nice improvement, but not as good as it could have been, to the point where you can actually recognize it. That's the kind of difference you got. And then on the flip side, you can have a situation where, shit, what happened to it? Where are the grafts? There's some, or maybe, scarring, who knows? But I mean, that's very true. It's great point that you brought up. That needs to be repeated. I'm repeating it almost every show. Spencer and I on every Friday, almost every show.
That I know. Yeah. Spencer's all about. He's all about. Just don't get a hair transplant. If you had one, don't get a second one. Just in general that risk exists. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that the third thing is I did go and do my homework with respect to beard versus scalp hair. And while I wasn't able to find a definitive answer, I did find some pretty interesting studies. One of them is a study that happened fairly recently, it was in 2017, where they basically had taken, and it's interesting, they got a whole bunch of hair from just in front of the ear on women, and that tissue over there is typically removed when you're doing a facelift. So you can get large volumes of skin, in supply in order to be able to do this experiment. What they did was they took hair from just in front of the ear on women, and they applied testosterone to those hairs, and sure enough, they turned into beard hairs. They got thicker, and as opposed to hair that was from the scalp, which I believe they also got from a similar source from the same people. And they did a fair number of these, and the scalp hair didn't get any thicker than it was from DHT. Now, granted, these were women who didn't suffer from androgenic alopecia. So it gave us one half of the story, but not the other half. But it was interesting that type of research was done. That was one thing that I found. But what it seems to be literature is that your hair gets programmed within specific areas of your body at birth is basically what the prevailing theory is. And that programming stays with the hair for the life of your body. So
that's what. Sorry to interrupt, but that's what the entire theory of donor dominance revolves around. Is the idea that the hair is programmed from birth, which actually is proven to be true in the fact that donor dominance is not entirely 100%, because what we're seeing is that, and this started to become an observation probably 15 years ago, maybe earlier, just no one was talking about it, and few doctors talk about it now, is donor hair doesn't always survive for the long term when it's been transplanted, but also there's the fact that hair can change, like my own case where chest hair was transplanted to my crown. On my chest, I mean, hair grows however long it grows. It grows longer on my in my crown. Ray Wood showed this when he transplanted a repair patient with, I think, a few thousand chest hairs, and he showed results with the hair actually pulled vertically off of the patient, up from the patient's scalp, and it was like 8 inches long. So there is anecdotal evidence. There might be actually some studies on this as well, where donor dominance is not fact. It is not concrete. Hair can and is influenced by the recipient site due to what I believe is the change in blood flow, because the scalp is the most vascular part of the body on the surface level. So when hair is transplanted to the scalp that does not normally live on the scalp, it can, I won't say it does as if it's a fact across the board, but it can change its characteristics, its coarseness, its anagen cycle, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I had a small number of beard hairs placed in one particular area of my scalp, and I remember distinctly, it grew in faster than the scalp hair that was transplanted, and it was noticeable because it was more brush-like when it was first coming in, but now I can't even tell. So it definitely, I would say, it adopted to the surrounding area. And
Interesting.
And the other thing that I was also reading is there's something called the panacrine signaling, as opposed to endocrine signaling. Endocrine signaling is signaling that comes from your hormones. It comes from other parts of your body. But panacrine means that this is signaling that comes from neighboring cells or adjacent cells.
Yes,
and that's one of the things that they talk about. Started when you were just an embryo is that there's going to be a cluster of skin cells that are going to end up on the top of your head, and a cluster of skin cells that are going to end up in your beard area, and those in turn produce messages to each other so that they act similarly.
Yeah.
So that may also explain why when you transplant from one area of the body to another, that over time those new hair follicles are going to start behaving more like their neighbors because of this soup of messages that the neighbors are sending out to those follicles.
It's also that process that you're talking about is also the idea behind some forms of hair multiplication and even the use of extracellular matrix, when it was first introduced. The idea was that the neighboring hairs and the tissue itself, all the stem cell activity that occurs during wounding, including the signaling that comes from neighboring follicles, would help to induce hair growth. We didn't find that to actually be true on the scale that we wanted it to be, but that was the theory behind that, or the hope. And it has carried forward into other areas of regenerative medicine, which Dr. Cole he's pretty well versed on that, and he could expound on that. Next time I have him on, maybe we'll talk about that.
It'd certainly be interesting. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the other bit that was also interesting in the case of beard hair anyway, is that when you introduce testosterone into the beard hair, the beard hair cells actually release growth factors, so that those growth factors are absorbed not only by the beard hairs that emitted them, but by the surrounding beard hairs as well.
Okay.
So that it kind of has this sort of an amplifying effect, which is sort of interesting. But it's interesting about the things like ACell. I had ACell put into my scalp from the second procedure. The first procedure, he used what they call platelet-rich fibrin, or PRF, which is basically what he called the snot clot. That was put in my donor area during the first procedure to aid in the healing, and there was also at least some evidence of helping to I guess you could call to resurrect the cellular remnants of the extractions. Dr. Cole has said that up to 30% of extraction points were no longer visible after, I think, something like 5 or 6 months, and he attributes that to both PRF and ACell, and he believes in both cases that is the case. And whether that means that a new hair grew in its place, or whether it just means that that the evidence of the extraction was gone, the bottom line is that it was no longer there. And ACell definitely does those things. The thing I think about most of these types of treatments, whether you're talking about a PRP, CRP, or whether you're going to talk about factorized stem cells, or you're going to talk about exosomes, or whatever, is that it may flood a given area with growth factors, but they peter out, and that means that the effect long term isn't going to exist. However, if you put cells that are going to continuously emit growth factors, that's a horse of a different color. I know that this is one of the things that plastic surgeons are working on with things like nanofat or transferred stem cells into doing the face. Some of these, this was last year when I went to Greece, talked to some of these plastic surgeons, and they talked about how if you do filler using hyaluronic acid or one of the other types of fillers, they last for a while, but then they dissipate. They claim that if you do filler with fat or fat-derived stem cells, I forget what the name of this stuff is called, SVF, or vascular fraction. Those are living stem cells and living fat cells that are getting introduced into the facial tissue for those fillers, and they tend to have a much longer life. They can hang around for 10 or 15 years because they're alive, they grow, and they maintain the fullness, whereas something like a hyaluronic acid will dissipate. And I suspect it's probably the same thing with the PRP, and it's probably one of the reasons why you need to probably continue to do the treatments to get the benefit. But anyway, I'm just yammering on out this.
It's nice that they think that, but until we see it in practice, it's all talk. Which is nice.
Yeah,
a lot of people find it super interesting, and it can add to their hopes and dreams. But how that works out. But
well, I mean, look, I'll be the first to admit, I think, one of the points that you always made to me is, more you're doing too many things at once, you're not going to know what's helping and what isn't. And that is the truth. I did see some significant hair growth, but I can't really attribute how much of it was to medical, how much of it was to the regenerative. I just know that I was able to turn into from something like a marginal patient, which some doctors wouldn't even look at, into the result that I have today. And I'm thankful for the result, regardless of what the process was. But it becomes difficult to make those kinds of decisions. I mean, these things are not cheap, so.
Well, unless you watch videos like this and go where he went, then it's cheap as dirt. And if you click the link, you can get $100 off.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, Morty, good hearing from you as always. Always appreciate the call, and look forward to hearing from you again. Thanks for calling.
Take care.
Take care, buddy. Bye. 833-563-4247. That is toll-free in North America. Of course, you can use calling apps to call from anywhere in the world. Lines are open. Let's talk about Mike Majlack's. I already forgot his name again. Majlack. Mike Majlack, whatever. His hair transplant result and my reaction to it. What do you guys think of it? Do you think I'm spot on? Do you think I'm, I don't know, out to lunch with my assessment? Do you think that it's better than I thought it was? Do you think it's worse? Let me know what you think. Give me a call, 833-563-4247. We can go to the chat room here. Joe thinks I've just sent. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Not bad. Let's see. A second procedure. Okay, you guys are having your conversations amongst yourselves. I love that. Let's see. Sergey, just different set of genes for scalp and beard hair. Both sets are activated by the androgen receptor. I believe it's correct. Okay, more chatting. Gypsy Sans. Eugenics is flooding social media, but their results are very consistent on quality, but nowhere near the price of the Turkish mills. Well, yeah, yes and yes. Let's see, anyone else? Go as Philip body hair. Let's see, lots of conversations going on. That's great. I love seeing you guys chatting, but you guys should give me a call. That's what we're here for. If I don't get any calls, like in a few minutes, then you know how it goes, folks. We've been on the air for an hour, and that will end most Ricky Tick if I don't get a call. The number is 833-563-4247. Any doctors out there, I know there's some doctors listening right now, you're welcome to give us a call and give your opinion on this. You can remain anonymous if you like. I don't recommend it, but if you want to, that's fine. Of course, if you're not, if you're just a viewer tuning in, give us a call. Check it out. Also, while you're at it, hit the like button, because I'm sitting here middle of my day. I could be doing something else, and I'm not getting paid for it. So I hope you appreciate my efforts. I actually had to work a little bit to put this one together today, getting the video switched over to my software here and some screenshots and transferring from my Mac to my PC, which is not fun. I highly recommend a consistent computing experience across platforms, not mixing Windows and Mac, but sometimes you have to. Let's see, questions. Is there anything to the theory that baldness can be predicted by facial features and neck posture? No. Don't even have to think about it. No, there's nothing to it. John Henry Lalanjaman. Hey, Joe, when will there be a cure for male pattern baldness? We'd all like to know, my friend. We'd all like to know. A good place to find out is supporting website. That would be hairlosscure2020.com. Our friend Anand runs a very amazing website. And I say that because it is. And he supports what we do here. Certainly appreciate everything he does. But yeah, a lot of great information over there. And when there is even a whisper of anything that can come down the pike and really help the hair loss community non-surgically, then that's the resource to check out, hairlosscure2020.com. Really appreciate what he does over there, so check that out. See any other or mini grafts? Let's see. FUE is FUT. A mini graft is really a mega graft by today's standard. Milk drinker. Okay, so FUE is FUT. All right, we're getting a little confusing here, but yes. Okay, so follicular unit extraction is simply removing follicular units. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. Got a call. I prefer to talk on the phone. Thanks for calling the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from? Turn down your stereo or your phone or your computer or whatever you're listening to in the background. Hello.
Hey, Joe. This is Robert from Chicago area.
Hello, Robert from Chicago. How are you?
Great, great. I have a question. Some other people may be in the same boat. Over the last 20 years, I had 2 strips and 2 FUEs, right?
Okay.
And I think I have things under control using medical therapy, but I'm still kind of thin. And I went to see a guy in the area. He said, well, that's it, buddy. You know, I don't think we have enough to would be worth harvesting anymore. And then so I'm looking around other places out of the country. You know, they pull body hair and this and that. But what do you think about approaching or harvesting hair other than your scalp if you're kind of thin and you get a few surgeries?
That's a good question. I feel like body hair is best used for situations like yours where, you know, generally speaking, where your traditional scalp donor has been exhausted, where you go to a top surgeon, assuming you went to a good doc, and says, you're tapped out, buddy. There's no more. That's when body hair comes in my view, because it is not as reliable as scalp hair. And when you're trying to restore your hair as much as you can, the last thing you want to do is to skimp on the reliability of the actual resource that you're pulling from to accomplish your goal. You want the best supply. You want the best resource. You want the best, everything. to get you where you want to be. And when you're jumping into the body hair realm, then those chances reduce. Now, there are some clinics that say that when you're going down the pyramid of donor hair resources, obviously scalp hair is at the top, and then below that would be beard hair, with a lot of clinics saying 80 to 90% survival rates, which may or not be true. I can't dispute that at all, simply because there aren't enough beard cases out in the wild, success or failure, to come up with a pulse on that scenario, to come up with a picture of whether or not that's true. But that's what the consensus is among a lot of several doctors that are in the field, that are good at what they do, and they work with beard hair as regular as any doctor can. After that, you got chest hair,
Right.
then back hair, a close third or fourth, and then you just keep going down the list. And after that, it just becomes a crapshoot. Leg hair, arm hair, then you get into armpit hair, for the love of God. Then even pubic hair. It's like, ask FSK in the chat room to keep going, because he's already thought 5 steps ahead of me on this one. He's like having fun with it, I can tell.
Yeah. Right,
and I was just reminded of a situation I remember online that I remember thinking, oh my God, how desperate are people? And I know people are desperate, but it's just, I remember seeing on a forum that is really, it's funny. It used to be really popular, but now it's kind of a shell of its former self. I remember when body hair was first being spoken about, and people were getting really excited about the possibilities. And I remember seeing a picture of some guy he uploaded, and he's standing in the back 40 on his farm, literally on his farm, behind a tractor, with his overalls down around his ankles, and he's wearing his whitey tighties, and you could see his body hair, and he's asking the group. He was anonymous. He didn't show his face, thank God. He's asking the group, what all of you anonymous people on this hair loss forum think of the quality of my body hair. Is it something I can use for my head? And I was just like, my God. Have some pride, man. Jesus. But yeah, you just reminded me of that. But
Right.
back to your question, I think that, I get sight unseen, don't know anything about you, but you've had 2 strips, 2 FUEs. How many grafts total?
Oh, I didn't count. I say about 6,000.
Okay.
Total.
All right. And what was your hair loss situation? What were you classified as on the Norwood scale?
I'm not good at that. It was just progressively thinning it.
Okay, so you kept getting surgeries as you kept losing hair. Okay.
Right.
And were you on medication at all? Did you say that?
I always avoided oral finasteride, but I just did minoxidil mainly. But now I'm on topical finasteride, minoxidil. It's something called pyroglutamate.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be working pretty well and retaining. I'm not losing anymore, which is good.
Okay. How long have you been taking it?
For about 2 years.
Okay. And so you're maintaining now. How old are you?
Right. I am 57.
57. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, sounds like you're doing everything right. You are now anyway. Like, hindsight, you would probably be in a better position. Can't say for sure, but probably if you'd started some form of finasteride earlier. But it is what it is. We're here today, so no need to cry over spilled milk. But I think that like if you're in a position where you need to have it, I mean, no one needs to have it, but to where it's an obvious need as far as all the surgery that you've had, and it's still not quite where you'd like it to be, then it's worth considering. But the question I have to ask you is, if you were told by every every surgeon, good and bad on the planet, that it's just not a good idea, would you be okay with it? Would you be able to carry on and not be devastated every time that you look at yourself in the mirror?
No, I would be okay with that.
Okay, then don't worry about it. Don't bother with it. Enjoy the fruits of your surgical endeavors. Continue with your medical route for treatment, and avoid surgery if you at all possibly can, because you've reached a position now where you're okay with it, and that's what this is all about, my friend. It's not about pushing the envelope to get as much as possible. Of course, who are you talking to here? but seriously speaking, it becomes, when you start going down that road of looking for more resources, it may turn out fine. Like I don't know, it may turn out fine. You may be happy with another big session of body hair, but keep in mind also you'd have to have more grafts from beard and body to compensate for the lower survival rates than you would if you got the same number of scalp grafts. All things being equal, if you got 3,000 scalp versus 3,000 body, and all of them grew, the scalp hair would probably look fuller and stronger and more dense than the body hair, simply because of the kill rate.
Right. Just on a side, I actually had some beard hair transplanted. I had a cleft lip, and I had it repaired, and they transplanted maybe about 100 hairs into my lip area, and it came out really well. It actually, they put it right on the actual scar itself, and the follicles took. It looks pretty good.
Well, good for you. Yeah, it's nice to hear. I like hearing about cleft lip success stories. Good for you. Nice.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for calling. Have a good one.
Okay.
Toll free 833-563-4247. It is toll free North America, and you can call worldwide with any calling app such as Skype or the calling app of your choice. I am here to answer your questions about hair loss and hair restoration, surgery, medication, non-surgical treatments, regenerative medicine, which is not my specialty, but I know enough to be dangerous. Got a call? Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello?
There you are. Yeah.
Yes.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Wayne from Pennsylvania.
Wayne from Pennsylvania. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Right on.
So here's the dilemma I have. I've, generally speaking, thick hair all around, and I need a little bit of thinner hair for the temple points. So I was thinking, is it possible to extract some of the thicker hair in the donor area and then purposely damage the root?
No.
So that when it grows, it's going to grow thinner?
No. There was a doctor who used to talk about doing that, and it failed miserably. The problem, when you see a hair transplant result on a patient that says they got fine hair, like you see the before image and they're like, yeah, I can't wait, and blah blah blah, here's my before image, going down that road, and then a year later they showed their final result, and the hair that was transplanted doesn't quite look right. The angles might be correct, the directions might be correct, but something's off about it, where the hair looks kind of almost wiry compared to the fine hair that came from the donor, or the rest of the hair that's finer. Have you ever seen results like that? Doing your research?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. You want to know why that hair is coarse and kinky like that? Because it was damaged.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big no. that's a nope.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, I read about some doctors purposely doing that.
Yeah.
To construct some fine hair in certain areas of the head.
Yeah, and you don't hear them talking about it today because it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Now there are situations like if you want to get really, deep into this rabbit hole, you can talk about how maybe plucking hairs can eventually make them finer, but do you really want to transplant some hair and then spend the next 3 years plucking them to make them come in finer? Like that's kind of a stretch for what most people would consider to be reasonable to get a good result. Like that's
what
a stretch.
About using electrolysis to purposely damage the hair?
Same thing. You can't predict.
It's not
Look,
predictable.
when you're damaging the hair, like what kind of difference do you think there is in damaging it from a physical blunt or a physical object versus electricity? What's the difference in the damage? And how can you control that damage? You can't. It doesn't work like that. Now there are cases, being fair about this, there are cases where you do go to some sort of clinic for laser hair removal or electrolysis, and it does not completely get rid of it, and it does come in finer, but you can't predict when that's going to happen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate the question. Like these are actually really good questions, but they don't manifest the way that you want them to in reality. I wish they did. I wish it, at the very least that you could predict how it would turn out when you try to do this damaging approach. And I can see it now. I'm thinking of a certain doctor right now in India that would call it the damaging protocol. Like just grabbing it and putting his name on it. So anyway, sorry, I digress. But yeah, you don't want to do that, my friend. No, that's really rolling the dice in a situation where you've already got the odds against you.
So is there any way to create temple points with fine hair then, when I probably don't have a lot of fine hair?
Well, if you don't have a lot of fine hair, then no. Like if you have body hair.
No, I don't. I have zero body hair.
Okay, well there you go. I was going to say, like, even if you have body hair, which is traditionally finer than most scalp hair, even then it would have to be of a very specific characteristic or set of characteristics. It would have to be straight or fairly straight. Mm-hmm. It would have to be fine, and it would have to be roughly the same color as your scalp hair, which does happen, but it's rare. It's not nearly as common as maybe we'd like to see in cases like this. But just generally speaking, if you do not believe that you have really any fine hair on your head, then there's no fine hair to be had for temple points.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And then getting back to body hair, that's generally best to use as filler hair. In
general, yeah.
In the prominent area.
Yeah, well, and that's why I was saying, if it matches your hair color, if it's finer as a characteristic, if it's not curly, if it's got, if it's fairly straight with maybe a wave, a moderate wave to it at most, then it would be okay. But you rarely see that. I have seen it before. I remember a case. It's pretty much the only case I've ever seen where leg hair was used successfully.
Leg hair, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
It was used successfully. This is a case from when did I meet this guy? It was in, I think, it was 2013. It was 10 years ago at the ISHRS conference in San Francisco. And it was a patient of Dr. Sanusi Umar. He had been on the forums for quite a while, and we'd had some chats behind the scenes. And he came up to me and introduced himself, and I was like, wow, okay. And he showed me his hairline, and I thought, what do you know? Shit worked. That time. I'd never seen it up to that point. I've never seen it since then where it actually worked, where leg hair or body hair of any sort into the frontal hairline actually worked. But if it worked once, it can work again. But of course, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. And to be fair, my case might actually be a decent one because my chest hair is similar to my scalp hair. I've mentioned it before. I even have some scalp hair in my crown, and you can't tell just looking at my hair which is which. You'd have to dig down, and you can see a little bit of a difference. But even today, I don't know if that's true because I've not even looked in probably 5 years. So, but yeah,
but then it also goes back to what you were talking about earlier, though, where this donor dominance is not necessarily 100% true. Some of that donor hair can take on some of that recipient characteristic over time.
Exactly. Yeah, I would not hold my breath for coarse, black, kinky hair to take on the characteristics of your long, flowing, blonde locks.
If it's a major difference, that probably won't convert to something like that.
That ain't going to happen. But in fact, like coarse, dark, curly hair isn't going to change. Period. At least not enough to cause any sort of difference that you'd see. So that's my feeling on the subject. I hope it makes sense.
Okay, it does. Okay, okay. All right, then that's fine.
Thanks for calling, Wayne. Good hearing from you. Bye-bye. Toll free 833-563-4247. We're at 4:22 Pacific time. Had some great phone calls, and I appreciate everyone sticking around after the live stream reaction of Mike Majlack, one of the Logan peripheral people. Hey, we got another call. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe, it's Jesse.
Hello, Jesse. Where are you calling from, buddy?
I'd rather not disclose, you know?
Not a problem. What can I help you with, buddy?
Well, I just wanted to say I think the guy's a scumbag. the guy that you showed on the video, he's a scumbag. Listen, right? I'm 68 years old, right?
God bless
Fat, bald, impotent, right? And I'm still having the best sex of my life. And to be honest, it comes down to the fact that I married the right woman, right?
There you go. Amen.
So I think I think the guy's capitalizing. He's a capitalist. He's a scumbag. I don't think he deserves a second of your time or your expertise.
Well,
right?
I can appreciate that, Jesse, but it's not him getting my time. It's the viewers that may not know quite what to believe or what's going on with this. And so my position, my job is, as it were, is to sit here and educate people about why what he's talking about is wrong, what he's doing is wrong, and how it affects them as patients, consumers that might not know any better, right? That's why I do this. I do the live reaction or the live stream reaction to explain the reality of what's being said and what's being shown on these videos. Some of them may be, there are some videos out there where it might be pretty accurate, and some of what this guy was saying is accurate, like where he's talking about the procedure itself, taking out the follicles and the incisions being made and the doctor and the technicians are placing them in. All that basic, 101 stuff is fine. But my issue is how he's got a link to get a paltry $100 off of an already dirt cheap surgery, and he's not disclosing his financial relationship. Like, do I know 100% that there's a financial relationship? No, but that's how this guy makes a living. He's doing these endorsements during these videos, and he's getting paid. How else is he worth a couple $1 million? How else does he have this huge house that he's got? Like he's got a job, and it's being a YouTuber, and that's how these kinds of YouTubers make their money. But it's got to be disclosed, and I think that's wrong. What do you think?
Well, I think you're the best. Spencer's the best. It's the best channel on hair loss, bar none. And I think I hope he doesn't start using your clips, start capitalizing off of you, right? Oh yeah.
There's that. Yeah. He just hangs up. I appreciate the call, Jesse. Thank you so much. That was good. Yeah, well, you know what? If he wants to capitalize on my clips, it just makes me more visible. So have at it. Take my clips, chop them up, try to dispute it, Oh, that'll be fun. Someone like Mike Majlack trying to dispute what I'm saying. Good times. Bring it. I appreciate the call, Jesse. Thanks so much. That was funny. Toll free, 833-563-4247. That is toll free in North America, and calling from anywhere in the world using Skype or the calling app of your choice. Let's see, anything in the chat room? I know you guys love having your discussions, and I think it's great too. Let's see, David Anthony, technicians are involved in various stages of hair transplant surgeries. What stages of the surgery is a technician's involvement appropriate, and which stages should strictly be done by the actual surgeon? Great question. It depends, it depends on where you are, as far as regulations and things like that. But, it goes, it's a good question. The entire industry of hair transplant surgery for the past 30 years, I'll say 40 years actually, since the early 80s, has been a technician-driven industry where there is a doctor, usually, involved at some stage, and back in the day, they would be involved in cutting out the strip. But even in the old plug days, it wasn't always a surgeon cutting out the plugs, the big 4 millimeter plugs. And just quick history lesson, they started cutting those up into smaller grafts, and that was the earliest form of mini micrografting. And then as they started taking, I forgot who this is. Someone came up with the idea of taking out plugs instead of from all over the donor area, taking them out into a small pattern that once all of them were extracted, it just left a gaping wound that they would close up with stitches. That's how strip surgery was born. Because some genius said, hey, instead of punching them out, let's just get a scalpel and cut it out, and then we can cut the plugs out from the strip, which became mini micrografts. And then Bobby Limmer in the late 80s or early 90s publicly introduced the use of stereoscopic dissecting microscopes to where they could be dissected down to their actual follicular units, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I think that obviously the doctor should be involved in the diagnosis, the consultation, the final consultation, and various aspects of the surgery based on the regulations of that, of where they're located. I like the idea of doctors removing the grafts like in an FUE surgery, but that's not always the best. There are doctors out there that like great results, great reputations, but they also have great technicians that are not these fly-by-night travel technicians that bounce from one clinic to the next. I'm not a fan of that. They've been with the same doctor, they've been with the same clinic for years and years. So it's kind of a difficult question to answer. I think that in some cases, doctors should be the only ones doing the extraction. Some cases, maybe not. Definitely making the recipient sites, but even then, some of the best known hair transplant doctors from like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the only way to do stick-and-place surgery was if the technicians were making the incision and then inserting the graft immediately after. So it's a mixed bag, especially today. And with the way that the industry is imploding with all the horrible results, I'm not so convinced at this point that there should be a delineating line between right and wrong in that arena, along that to answer that question, because I know so many technicians that are phenomenal at what they do, and I know so many doctors that are beyond terrible at what they do, and I think it's a travesty to. I know of one clinic in particular that has fantastic technicians and doctors, but they're being attacked by people that have nothing to do with their clinic and I'm talking on the legislation level or the regulation level, and it's causing them to suffer. Meanwhile, in their immediate area, there are clinics starting up with doctors that have no business doing hair transplant surgery. So ultimately, it comes down to patient care, it comes down to results, and ultimately it comes down to consistency of results. Hope that answers your question. 833-563-4247. It is toll free. Give me a call. It's 4:31 Pacific time, and I'm not going to stick around for much longer if I don't get any calls. I can check out the chat room. Jose Bless, hey Joe, about to be 5 months in. My left edge and temple is growing in so slowly, I'm embarrassed to go out without a hat. Oh, that's not good, buddy. I hope my surgery wasn't a failure considering PRP, but so expensive. Don't do anything at this point. There's no need for PRP. There's no need for nothing. You're at the same point I was in my second surgery with Dr. Wong, where I walked into the consultant's office. This is when I still lived in Seattle. And I sat down and I said, "Is this it?" And he laughed at me, laughed in my face. And I understood it for what it was. I wasn't offended. He was like, "Joe, you should know better by now." I was like, "Yeah, okay, you're right. You're right." And that's the thing. I did know better. But I know it's tough, buddy. When you're looking in the mirror and it's like watching grass grow. And it makes it worse when one part of the lawn is growing faster than the other part of the lawn. It's just the roll of the dice, man. It's just the way it works. In another 2 months, that other side can be to a spot where it's caught up with the other side where it is at 2 months, if that makes sense. Don't worry about it. Try to put it out of your head. Don't do anything to try and encourage more growth. That can actually potentially kick in a little bit of a telogen effluvium situation, a shock. Anything that you do to improve your hair growth or your fullness or whatever can actually have the opposite effect in the short term. Never forget that. Don't start medications. Like if you aren't on medication and you have a hair transplant, that's probably the exception to that rule that I lay out there. But if you're already on medication and you have a hair transplant, do not introduce anything new into your routine for the first 9 months, year, at least. Because you got to give it the chance it deserves to do what it's going to do. 833-563-4247. Hit the like button, people. This is a great show today. Got some great calls, including Jesse. I like hearing Jesse. Is a great call from him. You never know when you're 68 and you can't get it up, but it depends on who you marry. See, I can do that too. I thought it was fun. That was a good call. Appreciate your call, Jesse. Thank you very much. See. Okay, got some more likes. I appreciate that. And if you're watching this during the live stream or after, during the replay, and you're not a subscriber, I would like for you to subscribe, and only because I don't want you to miss out on what's coming up. I've secured I don't have the date yet, but I've secured a guest who is associated with a very famous clinic that does research. And I don't know. I think I don't want to talk it up too much, but I'm excited. I know the man personally. He's really good at what he does. He's very knowledgeable about the subject. Probably one of the most knowledgeable people about this non-surgical, about this medical treatment on the planet. And so we don't have the date secured. The initial talks is that it'll be a month from now, and I was just not happy about having to wait a month, and he knows it. So when he sees this, he won't be surprised when I make that facial expression. But I'll subscribe and then ring the bell so you get notified when I make the announcement of this video. And I'm going to have other videos before that. If I do have to wait till a month from now, God, I hope that's not the case. But if we do have to wait a month, I will have other shows before then that are going to be pretty good. I got other guests that I'm trying to get on board. Some more doctors I work with that it's just a scheduling issue because of time zones, because of the fact that they're actually doing surgeries. That little thing kind of gets in the way. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for all notifications. And if you are or are not subscribed, please hit the like button to show me that you appreciate what I'm doing. I'm sitting here by myself, and sometimes my dog, Masha. Masha, come here. Come here. Hop up. Come here. Let me show you my dog. This is such a great little dog. My dog, Masha. She's 13 months old, min pin. I rescued her. And just a sweet dog. Anyway, all right, that's enough time filler. So I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to call, and then I am out of here. It is currently 4:37 and 32 seconds. You got 1 minute from now. 833-563-4247. You're watching the main event on the Hair Transplant channel, which is a Hair Transplant Mentor production. That sounds really cool, but it doesn't really mean anything. Any questions in the chat room? Let's see. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you, man. Jose Bless. Thank you. RP, just starting on ProScar. How long should I wait considering hair transplant surgery? As long as you can. And what dose is most commonly suggested? Well, if you're starting on ProScar, you're prescribed a particular dose, so that's what your dose and frequency should be. Other people usually take, depends on if it's ProScar, it'd be quarter tablet, once every day or once every other day. Sometimes it's twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. Depends on who wrote the prescription for you. Some people will take a milligram instead of 1.25. They'll take it daily, every other day, so on and so forth. And that's about it. So, but your doctor prescribed it, so follow those instructions. But starting on ProScar, how long should you wait till you consider surgery? As long as you can. The ProScar may work for you to where you decide you don't want surgery. I don't know what your hair loss situation is like, but I've seen many cases where it stops the loss, and that's good enough. And patients that don't, or people that don't have a lot of hair loss, that's good. I've seen patients where it's thin and it's turned it around. And I've seen cases where it doesn't work at all. So only you can answer that question. I'd give it a year, a solid year of consideration, monitor it, take pictures now. Take pictures at 3 months, take pictures at 6 months, 9 months, and 1 year in the same place in your house, preferably a room that doesn't have any windows, so outside light doesn't influence it, with good overall lighting. Usually a bathroom is good for that. Do not use a flash on your camera or your phone because that distorts the image. And compare at 1 year and see how you feel about it, even without the photos. How you look in the mirror, how do you feel? Or when you look in the mirror, how do you feel? You may be fine with it. If you're fine with your hair at that point, then no need to get a hair transplant. And even then, still wait. Wait as long as you can, because there's no guarantees. All right, so we've gone way past that 1 minute. You're welcome. I'm out of here. Guys, thanks for tuning in so much. I really appreciate every one of you. And yeah, try not to let hair loss get you down too much. Try not to rush into surgery, because it is a last resort. Never forget that. Take care, everyone.